During the ascent phase of a dive, your body is exposed to a considerable reduction in pressure. As a result, if you don't properly control your ascent to the surface, gas dissolved in your tissues can cause decompression sickness, and gas contained in your lungs can cause lung barotrauma. But there are ways you can stay safe. To avoid decompression sickness, first, limit the amount of dissolved gas in your tissues by diving only within your no decompression limit, or NDL. Second, give your body enough time to wash out the dissolved gas by ascending slowly. To avoid lung barotrauma from expanding gas, breathe continuously during your ascent. Also, make sure to conduct a shallow safety stop before you surface to allow more time for off-gassing and decrease your risk of decompression sickness or lung barotrauma. Two principles of physics affect safe ascent. The first, called Henry's Law, has to do with the relationship between dissolved gas and pressure. Henry's Law states that when a given gas is in contact with a given liquid, the gas dissolves in the liquid proportionally to its partial pressure. At constant pressure, the gas above the surface and the dissolved gas are in equilibrium. If the pressure above the surface increases, more gas is pushed into the liquid. In simple systems, equilibrium is re-established after a pressure change, nearly instantaneously. If it decreases, more gas comes out of solution. In a complex system, like your body during a dive on air, this process takes time. The speed at which equilibrium between nitrogen from air and from other parts of your body depends on the circulation of your blood. During the dive, certain tissues and organs that receive a lot of blood accept the dissolved gas quickly. These are known as fast tissues. Other tissues that receive less blood are exposed to a smaller amount of dissolved gas to absorb. These are known as slow tissues. The amount of dissolved gas depends both on the pressure and on your time at depth. The deeper you go and the longer you stay, the more dissolved gas you will have in your body. During ascent, the dissolved gas is transported from your tissues back into your bloodstream, which carries it to your lungs, which release it into your alveoli, whence you exhale it with every breath you take. This process is called washing out. If your ascent is too fast, there will not be enough time to wash out all the dissolved gas your tissues have accumulated, and some of it will be released into your tissues in the form of gas bubbles. If you ascend very fast from a deep dive, bubbles can occur in tissues like your spinal cord and cause injury even without forming venous gas bubbles. So be sure to remember these two important points. Don't go deep for a long time, and don't ascend to the surface fast. Another physics principle behind safe ascent is Boyle's law. It states that for a given amount of gas at a fixed temperature, pressure and volume are inversely proportional. This means that if the pressure around you increases, like during descent, the volume of gas enclosed in the hollow spaces of your body decreases proportionally, and vice versa during ascent. The affected spaces and organs in your body are your lungs, middle ears, and sinuses. Since a given volume of space contains more gas at depth than it does on the surface, in order to maintain the same volume, these hollow organs need to take up additional gas during descent and then give off some expanding gas during ascent. However, the volume of gas that you need for breathing at a given level of exercise is always the same, regardless of depth. This is the reason why tanks of compressed air get depleted faster as divers dive deeper. Divers use the same volume for a given level of exercise as they would on the surface. But with increased pressure at depth, there will be more gas packed in that same volume. Boyle's law can have another repercussion for divers, a condition called lung overexpansion injury or pulmonary barotrauma, which is caused by holding your breath during your ascent. The gas in your lungs expands due to the decreasing pressure, and if it cannot escape as exhaled gas, it will overstretch your lungs and can escape into your chest or penetrate into your bloodstream. There are many ways to safely ascend to the surface at the end of a dive, but it is always important to control your buoyancy and the speed of your ascent. Experts recommend an ascent rate of no faster than 30 feet or about 9 meters per minute. Among the accepted methods are ascending along a sloping bottom using visual references, following a reference line, or ascending without references by using a surface marker buoy, a reel, and your dive computer. Here is how to perform each type of ascent. Following a sloping bottom up is the safest way to ascend for beginning divers, as the likelihood of ascending too fast using this method is minimal. As you ascend, you'll experience a gradual change of depth and will be able to adjust your buoyancy incrementally. And keep in mind that your dive isn't over just because it's time to ascend. If you swim gently during your safety stops, you can continue to explore while off-gassing excess nitrogen. Ascending along a reference line gives you the greatest control over your ascent because you can physically hold on to the line. But it's still important to watch your computer and remember to conduct a safety stop between 10 and 20 feet, or about 3 to 6 meters from the surface. A no-reference ascent is appropriate if you're ascending away from the shore or your dive boat. In such cases, you can control your ascent and safety stop using a reel and surface marker buoy, or SMB. This method involves attaching a buoy to your line, inflating it at depth, and letting it spool to the surface to mark the location where you'll come up. Then, as you ascend, you reel the line back onto the spool while you monitor your computer and control your buoyancy. This ascent method takes some practice to perfect, but once you do, it will allow you to perform a controlled, safe ascent even where there is no other point of reference at your dive site. Remember, whenever you ascend without a physical reference, it's very important to be attentive both to your dive computer's ascent rate indicator and to your buoyancy control. And don't forget to monitor surface traffic too. What if you ascend too fast? Most dive computers designed for recreational depth range are set to an ascent rate of 30 feet a minute, about 9 meters a minute or less. If you ascend faster than that at any point, your computer will issue a warning. If you see such a warning, you should slow down your ascent. In the event you bypass your safety stop, which can occur if you're not weighted properly, and you reach the surface and feel okay, you should return to your safety stop depth and execute a safety stop. This assumes that you are on a recreational, no-compression dive, that you have sufficient air left, that you're experiencing no symptoms, and that you're not feeling anxious. But if you ascend too rapidly and suspect you may have been injured, call for assistance immediately. If you exhibit any symptoms after a too rapid ascent, it is important to seek evaluation, as well as first aid care if it appears necessary. You may eventually decide to seek advanced training in decompression diving, and if you do so, you'll learn special procedures for handling this kind of situation. On very rare occasions, a diver may be forced to perform an emergency ascent. This type of ascent is used in case of a catastrophic equipment failure, an out-of-air scenario, or some other imminent threat to your life. If such an emergency arises and you're within recreational depth limits, you should still have enough gas left in your lungs to allow you to reach the surface even after you have exhaled your last breath. But because the gas in your lungs will expand during ascent, it is very important that you keep your regulator in your mouth and exhale during the entire ascent. It is also important to monitor your status and ascend at as controlled a rate as possible. Preparing properly for every dive, diving within your limits, and properly managing your air supply will help you avoid ever needing to perform an emergency ascent. Remember, controlled ascents minimize your risk of decompression sickness and barotrauma. The best practices for safe ascents are quite simple. First, always signal the beginning of your ascent to your buddy. Adjust your buoyancy and ascend slowly. Second, start your ascent slightly negative and adjust your buoyancy as you ascend. Third, practice ascents that require an SMB and a reel. Finally, take advanced classes. This will help you to tune up your skills, build your confidence, and learn how to react properly in case of an emergency. Regardless of the ascent method you use, the keys are controlling your ascent rate and conducting safety stops. Don't forget, these are skills that require practice. It's important to feel comfortable and familiar with your equipment, to ascend slowly, and to conduct safety stops on your way up after every dive.